Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the new Even Fight seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which at the start of the match, every unit in our starting deck gets its base power increased by 14 minus its provision cost, making low provision cost cards extremely strong. And today we're trying a new deck that benefits a ton from this event, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a monster's overwhelming hunger deck that does one thing and one thing alone. It is all about consuming succubi. The reason for that is because in this event, a succubus has 14 base power. And when we consume one of our succubi, another succubus will come out from our graveyard onto the board. And that means if we are consuming a succubus every single turn, that is 14 additional points every single turn from the succubi alone. So that is incredibly valuable. The one downside of that is that usually, if you start doing that process too early, the succubus is going to gain doomed, and that means that rather than going back into your graveyard so you can sustain the combo, one of the succubus is going to get destroyed and your combo stops. However, we can of course remove the doom status, and so that is what much of our other components of our deck are built to do. Primarily with the Caretaker, because we can purify with it multiple times. However, if you don't have the Caretaker or you need more sources of purification even beyond the Caretaker, then we also have a Pellar for some purification, and in this event, this is 14 points as well. So that's not a bad thing to be thrown down every once in a while. So that is how, even if we start consuming a couple of succubi early, we can still get them back from our graveyard onto the board and continue to score 14 points per turn just from the succubi, not even considering the other cards that we'll play from our hand. And when it comes to the other cards, yes, we'll have consumers with things like the Slyzard, which we'll want to get on the board before we play the succubi, the Wererat for consumption as well. Basically, because the succubus will show up on a random row, and both the Wererat and the Slyzard can only consume things that are on its row, put a Wererat in one row and a Slyzard in the other row, or one Slyzard in one row, one Slyzard in the other row, so on, so forth. We do also have a Desert Banshee in case a succubus shows up on a row where you don't have something that can consume it, but that can only consume once, and if you're looking for a few more sources of consumption, then you can also use your leader ability as well. Those are the various ways we can get enough consumption to, once we get it going, continue to do it for every single turn. Other than that, we of course get a lot of value from thinning in this event because cards that are usually very low power, like the Wild Hunt Rider, are suddenly worth a whole lot more. So Wild Hunt Rider is a great thing to do early on in the round while you're still waiting to get a little bit closer to that Adrenaline 4. Again, you don't have to wait for that Adrenaline 4, but if you find yourself in need of doing so or just don't want to have to purify your succubus, that is one way to work around it. Then, when it comes to round 2 and round 3, we would like to get the consumers going once again, and so either you play a Slyzard if you still have one remaining in your deck, or the Wererat if you still have one remaining in your deck, or use some leader ability charges plus a Desert Banshee if you don't have a consumer. But another thing we can do is we have multiple ways to get cards out from our graveyard and back onto the board. One way is with the Incubus. This is something you could do to either get back one of your Slyzards or also a Succubus, since we do need to get one Succubus out from our graveyard in order to get the process going again. We can also go for either a Necromancy for one of those two cards, the Slyzard or for the Succubus. Just bear in mind that if you are using Necromancy to get the Succubus, it does put dooms on that Succubus, so once again, you're going to need to purify her. So for that reason, Necromancy perhaps a little bit better for the consumption rather than the Succubi themselves. The other thing we can do, though, is we also have Renew, which, of course, also brings back cards from our graveyard, also, however, gives them the Doom status. This you can be a little more creative with, though, because you can use it on gold units, so it could be just the Wererat, in which case you're still going for consumption. It could of course still be a succubus, yes, but if you're finding yourself trying to get that combo going a little bit earlier before that Adrenaline 4 kicks in for the succubi, then you could choose to bring back the Caretaker, and once again you have a consistent source of purification, so this is a way to get that engine going as early as possible. So that's a nice way to get yourself a lot of points before that Adrenaline 4 kicks in. Then outside of that, we have a few finishers with things like Triss Meteor Shower, which may then wear for dealing damage to your opponent, or Range Rover for boosting yourself. Either way is fine. Do also have a Cave Troll for protection, since we only have one Cave Troll and we're trying to do a whole lot of consumption in multiple rounds. You're probably gonna have to pick whether to be safe in round 1 or safe in round 2/3 and protect one of those units that is doing all the consumption, but alas, makes things a little bit safer because obviously whatever is doing all that consumption is going to be a pretty clear target for your opponent to go after with whatever total removal they may have. Then other than that, we have some control as well, Dorregaray for some lock, and then specifically because Northern Realms Reaver Hunters are very common in this event, we also have Nivellen, which will move 3 adjacent cards to the other row on our opponent's side of the board. Basically, if your opponent has a bunch of Reaver Hunters, move those Reaver Hunters into the range row. So those are ways of countering one of the most common meta decks. And that's really all there is to it. The basic idea is just consume the Succubus as early and often as possible. But with that being said, let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And they'll go first. Okay, so we have both Succubi in our hand here. We have one Slyzard with which to consume them. Potentially a backup plan with this Desert Banshee. They are going first, so it might be a little bit tough to get this going here. The dominance on the Wild Hunt Rider also can get some consumption on the Wererat as well. Nivellen, probably not that relevant. Don't know that... I mean, assuming they're Wild Hunt with White Frost. I mean, this is mostly for Northern Realms counters for Reavers. Oneiromancy will certainly take it. Renew, definitely a big card for us. Just not really sure we're going to have the opportunity to use it much in this round. And one of the Wolf School Trio, we can make this work, I think. It's a decent variety of the things we're looking for here. Okay, the row movement actually is a little bit concerning, specifically for this Slyzard, because it is row locked, the row that it can consume from at least. So, you know, Slyzard in this row and Succubus in another row, and we can't consume it. But since we do have multiple consumers, maybe that's not a terrible thing. And yeah, we're 1 point off of being able to get the dominance here. So let's do this first. I do expect for there to be some action, movement-wise here, at some point at least. Okay, Wild Hunt Hound, they're tied for dominance, so that will still work. But now, let's see, so if we consume Succubus early, obviously we will not have Adrenaline 4. So that would mean we would need to get out something to purify this Succubus, which in all likelihood we would like to have that be the, wherever you are, Caretaker. But obviously if we use that, then we are not going to have the Caretaker unless that becomes our new target for a later round. So I think that is perhaps what we will go for here. So we'll get Caretaker through Oneiromancy here. So let's do this. And, well, actually, the first time we consume, we're not going to get the Succubus out anyway. Now, they very well may, and really should, use Imlerth's Wrath to destroy one of our highly boosted cards, and technically they should wait as long as possible and go after the Slyzard then. Could go for it now, but it's obviously not going to be worth quite as much. That is really the biggest threat. We eventually... I mean, now we can get Wild Hunt Rider going, unless they play something huge here. So, okay, there's going to be Frost for this row. Possibly to be followed soon thereafter by Imlerth's Wrath. But if we start to go a little bit wider, then we may be able to still not have the loss of the Slyzard, potential loss of the Slyzard be catastrophic. So let's, and we probably should still go Succubus first here. Get this combo going as early as possible because it's 14 points per turn, which is obviously huge. The problem is, usually you'd have to wait until Adrenaline 4, but we are going to try to work around that by breaking out our Caretaker in a matter of moments. And obviously this Succubus showed up in the other row anyway, so the Slyzard would not be able to consume the Succubus anyway. Okay, they're going to get both rows going and replay you. It's not the best card to be replaying, with all the Wild Hunt options. So, we'll get out Winter Queen. We are now able to use Wild Hunt Rider, speaking of Wild Hunt. But I think top priority, because it has a cooldown, is to get Caretaker out here as quickly as possible. So let's do that. And then Cave Troll would be the other option to make it safer for us to avoid the Imlerth's Wrath. It's just that since we only have one tutor at the moment, we have to be pretty selective. So let's do that. And then we could use a Lead Ability Charge to immediately consume the Succubus. I don't think I will do that, though. Might break out Wererat. Might go Desert Banshee instead. Wererat's a little bit quicker, but more valuable. Okay, more Frost. And using the stratagem. Now, remember, we do have a lead right now, which looks significant, but can't forget that that Winter Queen is going to get a pretty huge boost at the end of the round, so need to be careful not to forget that. So let's go Desert Banshee here. I think, yes, the Wererat is faster because we put it next to the Succubus and it will immediately consume her, which is nice, and then we conveniently get the Caretaker coming off cooldown at just the right time, whereas we would need to wait a turn for the Desert Banshee since we don't have Zeal. but we'd like to take one more turn anyway to get the thinning from these riders, so I think we're still okay with this. Now, the other thing is the Desert Banshee can only consume once, whereas Wererat is a consistent source of consumption, but again, since this round will likely go shorter than round 3, I mean, we'll see. That might be more reason to save Wererat for later. Can also get the thinning from Wolf School Trio as well, so we have other things that we are still thinking we'd like to do. And they do not have dominance at the moment, so that should just be 2 damage. So now we can consume you. Don't really have anything to purify with Caretaker at the moment, so let's go... I mean, either of these, really, are the things we're looking for here. Anything on their side we want to purify? No, probably not. And in fact, we should now have that Adrenaline 4, so shouldn't need the Caretaker on this occasion. Not anymore. Conveniently, you do come in that row with the Slyzard. That is very nice. They do pass. We need to be careful, though. As I said, we need to do some math here. Once both players pass, boost health by 2 for each turn of Frost remaining on our side of the board. So we have 10 turns of Frost total, which means they're going to get 20 boosts on this Winter Queen. That is still not enough for them to catch us. So we should be fine passing here, and then we're winning on even, which is obviously very nice. Would have liked to have gotten the chance to play one more turn to get the Wolf School Trio thinning out as well, but alas, that will have to wait. There is the big boost, but still not enough. So we will take the round 1 win. Okay, so obviously we're going to drop this Wolf School Trio member, and we'll gauge how willing we are to play further here, depending on what we have available to us. Archespore is another card we would have liked to have thinned out in round 1, so a lot of thinning we still have remaining here, and not a perfect hand. We do have some consumption with Wererat, yes. We can use Incubus to get back one of the Succubi to get the process started with the consumption, but then we won't have a second consumer for the other row if something goes to the row that does not have Wererat, unless we get that out with Oneiromancy, but this is, what is that going to get? Cave Troll, perhaps? Let's swap you out. Okay, I mean, that's also a valuable card, yes, but a finisher, and not one that is critical to the functioning of our combo. Basically, what I'm wondering is it worth dropping Wererat and then throwing an Archespore next to it on our next turn, or going with Incubus to get the Succubus over there as well? What do they have that we could consider getting out? I mean, you would not have dominance, so that's not a terrible option. So we could, otherwise we go and dry pass here. They're going to have to play something, and there'll be a card down in round 3. We'll have double Assay. That's pretty tempting, though we actually do kind of like short rounds. Tell you what, we're going to do it. We're going to go, let's get the thinning first. We'll prioritize that, because if nothing else, that just increases our consistency going into round 3. The real sacrifice here is the Wererat, because that is a really nice source of consumption, and we like those. We do still have all leader ability charges, though, so that's one of the reasons why I feel like if we're going to have to commit one of our big consumers in this round, it's not the absolute end of the world, and it doesn't really matter what row that Archespore is in at the moment, so that's still fine. Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm actually not sure, timing-wise, what happens first. The check for this status or the Wererat consumption. It's not the absolute end of the world if this Archespore gets locked, and therefore we're just consuming a locked 1 power unit that does not actually get us the thinning. I mean, we still, technically might not be, they still need to play more, because if they don't keep on playing, if they pass, then we just win 2-0, because we can keep on playing. So yeah, we'll do this. Not 100% certain here how that's going to play out, though. Does it? Okay, yes, perfect. We do still get the thinning. That's great. We can go Wolf School Trio now for more thinning and a point slam as well. So again, that's one of the reasons why I was thinking that we should push in round 2 at least a little bit. Bleed out. Maybe pushing for the 2-0 is not necessarily what we're looking for, but we are at Adrenaline 4. So that does mean that we could use the Incubus to get out the Succubus and start consuming stuff. That's actually convenient for us. Otherwise, we were going to end up consuming this Archespore on our next turn, rather then if we go Incubus here to bring out a Succubus, we would have been able to immediately consume it, so that is actually 1 turn quicker for us. And for that reason, I was thinking initially about just dropping this and calling it around. Now, this is perhaps a little too tempting to pass up on. So let's go Incubus. I'm going to put it here so the Incubus does not get consumed, but whatever we bring out with it will be, and that is, of course, the Succubus. So we're going to choose... Oh, Succubus is, remember, 5 provisions. So we need to make sure we're picking something that costs 5 or more provisions. So it can't be you. Can't be you. It will have to be you. Which is a little unfortunate because that is an engine that will be somewhat relevant for them, but that is exactly what we're looking for, though. Succubus showing up right there. In fact, we could pass, and there's a... It's not guaranteed, but there's a chance that Succubus will keep on showing up in that Wererat row, and we'll just have an automatic 14-point per turn engine even after we pass. So if they have Influence Wrath, they may be strongly considering breaking it out here. Even if they do, we would probably still go with Wolf School Trio. Okay, let's see. They can move to the other row with that order ability. Oh, they've run out of leader ability charges, though. This would be a good time to use one of those. Obviously, that's... Well, they can only do this with dominance, right? And they don't have dominance. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to go Wolf School Trio range row, just because we don't want to potentially force the Wererat into eating that rather than the Succubi. So we'll do this. This might be the last thing that we play in this round. We have a pretty huge lead here. It depends a little bit on what the Succubus does. Where does it end up? Love it. Love it. Okay, Mamuna. Sure. What are you going to bring out with it, though? I assume you must have Sabbath, right? Okay, you still don't have Dominance, so that's not doing you much good here. So we could just keep on playing here and try to push 2-0. That's certainly not a terrible idea. However, even after we pass, Succubus gets consumed for 14 and comes back out for 14 points, which means we have a humongous lead. I cannot do the mental math quickly enough to know if that is enough to even be ahead, even if they remove the Wererat, but it would be pretty... Yeah, probably. That might be enough for them to catch us in 1 turn, but even then, they're still going down a card in round 3. So, I think we can settle for that. I mean, I guess, or you can make the case we just win right here, right now. Yeah. I guess we'll push 2-0 after all. I guess we will. Let's get the Slyzard out in this row. This is in preparation for if the Succubus does end up going in this row. Otherwise, I mean, we have 2 leader ability charges. At most, we're going to have 2 turns of Succubus showing up in this row, so we actually could have been fine without the Slyzard, to tell you the truth. Or, you know, if this does go to 3 rounds, we'll save. Okay, now we are not going to consume the Slyzard. Fair enough. Pretty well-timed Yaga, but if they had waited for us to consume a Succubus with the Slyzard, then it would have been worth a whole lot more. But we're going to use our leader ability in that case. And probably break out Triss Meteor Shower. Renew was supposed to be, potentially, for Caretaker, but that hasn't really been a need since we pushed in round 2 when we were already on Adrenaline 4. So we might just save this for round 3. We might have this be the last turn that we take, is basically, I guess, what I'm saying here. So let's do that. And then, if we go Triss, we'll go probably melee row. To hit all those? Yeah, I guess. Not, again, don't really have time to do all the math here. But that looks decent to me. Conveniently, you show up there. Yaga will not be able to consume you quickly enough to stop Wererat from eating you at least 1 more time. So this looks like a decent place for us to pass. Tyrnalia, they would have liked that in round 1 when they had a whole bunch of frost going. They don't really have that anymore, so I think we bled that out very effectively. So I think we pass here. So I don't think they may be able to catch Snow, even if they remove Wererat, that's still not enough. And they probably had Devotion. We don't know definitively with Oberon, because he hasn't fully evolved in round 2, but okay, they're gonna have to settle for going for the Incubus, which is not that big. And you'd have to think that Caranthir would be their finisher, although they've not done much frost damage in this round. So, if that is their plan, it's not going to be very effective. That's very good, though. That's also very good. They might have this in this round at least. No, not quite though. We will hold on for the 2-0 win with a card to spare. All right, so going up against Northern Realms here. And we'll go first. All right, so as this is Northern Realms Inspired Zeal, I think we need to assume that there is a pretty good chance that they are going to be Reavers here. So we need to be prepared to answer some of the Reaver issues, which mostly means Nivellen and Dorregaray for lock and move. Don't have any of those cards right now, though, which is a bit concerning. Also, no Succubi, which is also a pretty big problem. Okay, Renew is, yes, a nice card, but not as necessary for round 1, similar with Incubus. Okay, so put this bluntly. Our round 1 hand is pretty atrocious for anything except for thinning. That is pretty much the one thing we have going for us here. We do have Curse Scroll. I think we need to save that as a way to get a Reaver answer, assuming that is something we'll need to do. We'll start with the Slyzard, and then, technically, probably should have started with Wild Hunt Rider. If they're going to start with Reaver, then technically, you know, they're not going to have the highest card anyway, but then we're going to want to answer immediately. Point was going to be Slyzard, so we can go Archespore next turn and immediately consume it. I don't like that. That was not what I expected them to do, but that is actually potentially very significant. So we would have liked to have gotten the chance to replay that Slyzard. Yes, we have more consumers, so we aren't entirely relying on this Slyzard alone, but would have potentially made things easier, as it could have been an Incubus target. Oh, wow. No, I definitely didn't see that coming. Now, they could have technically been a lot more patient and gotten a lot more value out of that, but okay. We are tied for dominance, though, so we could still do this. We do also have another Slyzard hanging out in our deck, so that's another reason why losing one is not the absolute end of the world, but it does make matters a little more difficult, and this is potentially where they bring out the Reavers. It is. Meteor ability charges, at least one in all likelihood. Okay, leave it at that. So, with just one, we could have purified the Slyzard in case that wasn't obvious, but I didn't really expect them to immediately destroy it the way that they did. Given how they have only 2 Reavers here, I think lock is preferable. If they had a whole bunch, I'd say maybe we do the movement with Nivellen, but I think the lock is maybe the way to go on this occasion. And again, we could get it with Royal Decree, but I think technically we should go Oneiromancy. Incubus was not useful for us to get in this round. It is going to be used, or would have been great to use that for something like the Slyzard, but that doesn't actually work now that they've given that doomed, so it is gone for good. Block you, though. So we'll see. They may very well have Purification. They may reset this order. They may just play another Reaver. There are certainly ways to work around that lock, but what, if anything, will they do about it? Honestly, might have been best to load up in this row in anticipation of using a round 1 Triss Meteor Shower, just to find a way to power through this. Okay, Mushy Truffle, substantially worse. Oh, for Reaver Hunters, and also for Meditating Mages relative to what you get from playing the ones from your starting deck, but that could very well be, in fact, is confirmation that they have a Meditating Mage in their starting deck, so that other one that they create will be much more valuable and much more resilience. So we need to be a little wary of that. And I mean, technically we could purify that if we really wanted to. So now it gets tricky though, timing-wise. Because we are not quite at Adrenaline 4 for Wolf School Trio. Don't really have anything to renew. Triss Meteor Shower would be pretty preemptive. Don't yet have anything meaningful to purify. And that means we're probably going to have to use Royal Decree here. For what you ask? To which I say there is not really a great answer right now. Unless we're going to break out a Caretaker to purify both of their resilience units, but I'd rather not do that. It's going to be something. It is going to be something. And that something is going to be a cave troll, because it was the only thing that it was the thing that I happened to choose to click on. Because I guess we could have gone with the best option was really one of the Succubi, and then consuming that with a leader ability charge. Here's what we expected to see, though. Okay, go for the resilience, or for the zeal here. Not sure why you're bothering to boost that one. We're gonna purify this one here because it's just way more valuable than this. Don't care that much about them having a low value resilience card there. So this is where the Pellar comes in. Well, yeah, I think we Pellar prioritize that first. And then if they keep on playing, it's Wolf School Trio. And if we have enough room, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 3 cards is 8. We have enough room to Triss, Meteor, Shower, Range Row, and boost everyone here. Okay, I think that's fine. Is it though? Technically means they don't need to play anything in round 2. Even with a tiny little meditating mage, that is enough for them to not to play anything. Prevents us from try passing, or at least strongly discourages us from doing so. Well, actually, that's not necessarily true, because if we try pass here, we're on 10 cards. Can't get any better than that. And so, they're just going to have 1 extra mulligan. In that case, is what that amounts to. So, I think let's just try to fine-tune our hand here. We're expecting them to break out more Reavers in round 3, and that means Nivellen is our key answer there, or renewing to get Dorregaray back. Incubus, unfortunately, really does not have much of anything to go after, given how they gave Doomed previously, and as I said, really should have just gone for the Succubus to target last time. This is gonna have to be other Succubus. Well, yeah, I think we're probably just not playing in round 2, I think. Ultimately, it's probably the best course of action here. If we had both Succubi, then we might have thought about it. They would still obviously have 1 card advantage, so I think everything points to us dry passing here. Okay, Siege. Oh, I love that they're playing that now. So that was going to be a very important tech card for Nivellen. Now, of course, we haven't done all the thinning that we wanted to do in an early round. It's actually technically a good thing to draw into both of the Wolf School Trio members, or at least we can guarantee we're not going to mulligan into them. Granted, it does mean we're going to be forced into holding on to Incubus, which, again, because we had an uneventful round 1, means that is not going to be a great Incubus, unless they destroy something that we did not want them to destroy. Which might end up happening. We'll see. We definitely wanted that Slyzard. That is very good. And Caretaker was another card we were perhaps going to want to tutor out. So that is good. Everything except for Incubus. It's more or less exactly what we were looking for. And would like to have gotten the other Succubus somewhere. Or have used, again, the Succubus, tutor to get Succubus in round 1. That was just a flustered play before. But we can still make this work for sure. So, Radovid, gonna give them more charges for Inspired Zeal. They used all of them in round 1, which was kind of crazy. But that's gonna be to set up the Reavers, of course. So I think, I mean, we could renew into Dorregaray, lock King Radovid. I don't think that's gonna make a huge difference. I think just getting ourselves set up as quickly as possible is really the most efficient way to make this happen. We are potentially going to start consuming the Succubus before Adrenaline 4, which means that that she's going to get doomed, but that's why we have Caretaker. But I think this is going to be, let's see. They still have a Reaver. Okay, in their deck. Didn't remember if they used all of them or whatnot. But yeah, this is where we're going to break out leader ability charges, probably both of them. Or they should probably use both remaining charges right here, right now. I don't know what else you prefer to use those charges on. So, for that reason, you could deliberately wait a turn before using Nivellen. Otherwise, you just move these two. And yeah. We could do that, and then if they do something like a Necromancy to bring back these Reaver Hunters, then we could lock these with a Renew Dorregaray. Or if they have another Siege Ladder, in addition to the one that they already played, then we could lock the ones that get moved. So, I guess that means we can be aggressive with Nivellen here. This will, of course, make them, I'm sure, displeased that they already committed Siege Ladder. They can still create more Reaver Hunters in this row, which honestly is not a terrible thing, because that's still worth decent value. Iteran. I mean, 1 powered. Reaver Hunters, not from their starting deck. Way, way weaker. So not that worried about that. Honestly, might just let them do that. So now, what we do is we start consuming you. Is there anything else we want to do beforehand? No, not really. I mean, we'll get the Wererat out in case she ends up popping up in this row, but again, we'll probably have to go Caretaker first anyway to get the purification happening, in fact. And that was Succubus number 1, right? Yeah, sweet. It's going to be a little while until the next Succubus pops up anyway. Reinforcements, not from their starting deck. So way, way weaker. Which is such a huge deal for Reaver Hunters because the base power is more important than just the points on the board. It affects how many copies of the card you can create. So, although it's basically, you know, a standard Reaver Hunters rather than Reaver Hunters from this event. And Reaver Hunters in this event are way stronger than usual. So for that reason, honestly, I think we may have done enough already with Nivellen. So I think we just proceed with our plans here to now might be best to get out the other Succubus right now, I think. The other one will come out, then we'll use Caretaker to purify it, and, you know, we could just use the leader ability charge before our next turn in which we use Wererat. So I think that's the plan. I think that is going to be the plan here. So which row does she end up in? We'd prefer this row, but yeah, we'll go Caretaker, leader ability on our next turn. Reaver Scout also, this is a standard Reavers deck, not a Reavers deck for this event, and there is a difference. There is an important difference. Okay, so now we do this, and eventually we'll put Wererat in this row. But positioning for the Caretaker, I don't think that should matter too much. So we do Purification here. No more Doomed means we can consume you again without you getting completely destroyed. So that's why we now go Leader ability here. We would like for you to pop up in this row, so I mean, technically it doesn't matter anymore, because we're going to play Wererat on our next turn anyway. Alright, that's fine. Wererat will still go in this row. In case you do pop up there, you do still have the Doomed, though. That is actually going to delay us one turn. That is a huge problem, though. That one little squirrel actually changed everything. Okay, we do still have Wolf School Trio, which will be a solid point slam. Those are engines, and our engine has now been completely shut down, assuming that they, I didn't even double check, but I imagine they banished the other Succubus. Yeah, they did. Ooh, okay, that's a problem. That is going to be a problem. Now we need to adapt. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to load up our range row with as many big cards as possible. We're going to boost our range row with Triss Meteor Shower, and we are going to Wolf School Trio in that same range row as well. Let's clog their range row with something bad, like a Meditating Mage on low base power, and we'll instead put something much more valuable, like a 14 power Pellar on our side. I don't remember if Incubus works when they have no space in their row or not, so I'm gonna go range row just in case. We'll do this, and we do, I mean, any of these really. So now they are completely clogged, which I don't know, that might completely prevent them from doing anything else depending on what the rest of their hand is. So this got a little chaotic here. They obviously, well, I mean, they had Iteran to begin with, so you could make the case that they did plan to spam some Reaver Hunters in both rows. But again, it just feels silly to do that, especially in this event. Casting Contest, I mean, it is a boost, yes, but significantly less effective than anything would be, any unit would be, and then again, they can't play any units anymore. Yeah, Meditating Mage, it is an engine that can get some vitality, which is one reason why I had a little bit of hesitation, but at the same time, still way less valuable than anything else we could have given them. So now, I'm sure we'll purify you for the sake of purifying you, but let's go Wolf School Trio. Let's just count the number of cards in this row, because we can fit 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This gets us up to 8. Which then means Triss would fill the row entirely. I think, by the looks of things, it's definitely better to go boosting rather than damaging, because they do not have very high base power cards. So that means Wererat's gonna have to go melee row. I think that's fine. What is Renew gonna get? We could lock something. Could lock you if we really wanted to. Still don't think that's gonna be a huge deal. So, or get Cape Troll for protection. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't make a huge difference. But let's do that. And now they can't play units, so we may have already won. I mean, I was about to lock that on the next turn with Dorregaray, but so be it. I mean, we could still lock a Reaver Hunter, which technically means they're dealing 1 less damage every turn, so and the earlier we do that, the better. So, sure, I guess. Why not? That is technically the best option here. So, we'll do it. And so next turn we'll just plop a Wererat down this row. Don't want it to consume anything here. This would have been a source of consumption for the Succubus, but we don't really need to do that anymore. Like, sure, do that. But now that we lost the second Succubus, that's not meaningful anymore. So it's just a point slam, Triss Meteor Shower, which they can't really match because they cannot play any units. Heat Wave is not bad. Okay, that actually does make room for us to fit 1 more card in this row, and that'll end up being the Wererat, but again, we'll put it all the way on the right so that it does not consume anything and reduce the value of Triss Meteor Shower. So we'll do that. And I think they may have Rage Quit. And so, we will take the win. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And they'll go first. Alright, so let's see. We have at least 1 Consumer. And we have 1 Wild Hunt Rider. Not sure we're going to get the Dominant since they're on blue coin here, at least not initially. 1 Succubus. We'd like to have a second. We obviously have 2 Wolf School Witchers. We'd like to dump 1 of those. Archespore, another good consumption target early. Necromancy, probably not meaningful in round 1. So I think we dump that, and we're hoping we get Succubus number 2 or a tutor to get that Succubus. Nivellen is mostly a tech card against Northern Realms, so that does probably make matters pretty difficult for us here in this round. And they do appear to be a Death Wish deck of their own. What kind, you ask? Bruce Ritual is a card that once upon a time I had put in this deck because it helps for consistency, which is the kind of thing we could use right about now. But I think, so yeah, technically speaking, if we were to play Wild Hunt Rider, we would have Dominance. We'd be tied for it, so sure, I guess we'll take the thinning there in that case. But we might be looking to keep this round relatively short. We could still consume Succubus number 1, and then that's basically a way of just giving ourselves a little bit of a head start for a later round. But I'm getting the feeling this is going to be pretty close to a mirror match here. They may not be as dedicated to Succubi specifically, as we can see they have a whole bunch of other Death Wish cards, but that is the thing. Succubus is so far and away the best Death Wish card in this event that hopefully that can be a difference maker for us. So the one thing we could do is we could look to consume the Archespore, although that being said, it would be kind of nice to save some of our consumers for later round because we don't necessarily have a guarantee that we can get you later on. So yeah, this is just very, very awkward hand, unfortunately. Half considering going with the leader ability charge to consume this Archespore. Just so we can save this Slyzard. I don't even know what our next card would be in that case, though. I guess we'll do it. Now, if they break out a Slyzard, or a Wererat of their own, then that could still be a use case for Nivellen. Granted, I don't think this round is going to go long enough for that to be much of a factor here, so chances are we're just going to end up mulliganing this at the start of round 2. Alright, Giant Toad, that's some consumption carryover of sorts, so that's certainly not a bad thing. So again, just not really thinking we're going to try to catch them in this round. Mostly just taking whatever thinning we can get to improve our likelihood of getting the actual cards that we want in a later round. So, Wild Hunt Rider, Archespore, not sure this round is going to go long enough to hit. Ooh. Yet Wolf School Trio. This, however, just became very interesting. They, without a doubt, had such a better hand than we did. And so they got off to a very quick start. However, by passing this early, they may have given us a chance to catch them here. So we do need to weigh that to a certain extent. We honestly might even consider using Triss Meteor Shower in round 1 here. Melee row hit there. Range row, these are just 6 base power, which is not amazing. But that... Let's see, we need to catch them in 3 cards. And as I said, not having that second Succubus is a real thorn in our side here. But we could finish with Wolf School Trio as well. I think we're onto something here. I think we can still make this happen. Now, granted, I haven't done the map. So there is still some value to consuming this Succubus here. Because although we won't be able to get the combo going in this round, it means that we're ready to do it in more quickly in round 2/round 3. So let's see, this is Adrenaline 5, which means this would be the turn for Triss Meteor Shower, and then we'd finish with Wolf School Trio. Wolf School Trio is what? It's 30 points, which gets us... That's pretty close. We might not even need to use Triss, to tell you the truth, because this is 30, gets us to 112. That means we need another 12, so... Or really another 13 to pass them, so Nivellen plus Wolf School Trio should be sufficient. I think we do that. I think we do that. They got a little greedy there, I think. So this doesn't really matter where we do this. Now, if my math is correct, that should mean we do this, and then we can dry pass in round 2. Win by 1 point in round 1. So you saw the huge lead they got out to, but they underestimated our ability to catch them. And now we have gotten all the thinning we were looking for. So this is suddenly looking much, much better for us. Okay, so given how we played a lot more cards than our opponent in the previous round, I think we will dry pass here, and we'll still be up to 10 cards in round 3, so that's fine. We'll have last say as well. But here we start drawing into the cards that we actually wanted in round 1 with things like Oneiromancy and Royal Decree. And Pellar, although you might look at that and think that that is not all that necessary, it does help us do the consumption earlier so we can purify the Doom status off the Succubi if we do start doing that before Adrenaline 4 kicks in. Incubus also helps us get probably what ended up being Slyzard out from our graveyard to give us a consistent consumer. So, okay, I think this works. I mean, honestly, you can make a case for dropping Cave Troll. But we will try pass here. And we'll see if they have anything else to give them carryover of sorts headed into the next round here. And if they do have it, then they'll do it here with Oneiromancy, and again, Giant Toad is sort of doing just that. Pellar, ooh, it looks very similar, our 2 decks here, so it may just come down to execution. But yeah, they have more other consumers and Deathwish stuff going on, so we'll see if the dedicated Succubi win out. Alright, and here is Succubus number 2, and here is another Slyzard, so we can put one Slyzard in one row, the other Slyzard in the other row. We draw into Renew, which honestly, we didn't play that much when it comes to critical cards in round 1, besides this Slyzard, but because we just drew into, oh, well, we had the Incubus, so this basically means Renew is not necessary unless they destroy something. So, we might even mulligan out Renew here, and look for, Dorregaray to, we could use movements for, if they play a Slyzard or a Wererat, we can find a use for Renew. Like, maybe they'll destroy one of our other key cards before we get the chance to set up fully. We'll see. Detlef, okay, so yeah, I mean, obviously they're Deathwish deck, that goes without saying. The thing is, the key question, I mean, look at this. Perfect comparison. Detlef, usually much stronger card than Succubus, or at least, there's a reason why it costs 10 provisions, whereas Succubus costs 5. However, they're functionally doing the same thing, just Succubus is 4 higher base power, and Succubus has an unlimited number of times we can use it if we remove that Doom status. So that's kind of the difference here, is we are hopefully just going to have a better Detlef Higher Vampire with our dedication to the Succubi. But we shall see. Okay, Arachis Queen. Now, granted, Arachis Queen could potentially change that, but what they create with Arachis Queen is going to be a base copy of Detlef, not the 10 base power version. So now we're going to immediately consume this Succubus with the Slyzard. That is way before Adrenaline 4, but that's why we have Caretaker and Pellar, so we can remove that Doom status and keep on doing that consumption indefinitely. There may be some ways they can stop that. That remains to be seen, and, you know, we may break out the Cave Troll soon for that reason as well, but we're gonna find out. So comes out with Doomed. Okay, Arachis Nest. Honestly, in this event, I feel like that's just a waste of board space here. Okay, and there you see. Not 10 base power, just 6 base power. Alright, so now let's get out the Caretaker here. Purify, and since the Succubus ended up in a row other than the one that we have the Slyzard in, let's use a leader ability charge here. Not gonna, well, I'd like to save one leader ability charge just in case we see this Slyzard get answered. Okay, Maruna does not have anything to seize. So again, in Standard, Maruna may be great, but not so much in this event. And that's why we are focusing on the Succubus. Now, Caretaker is on cooldown here, so there are a few things we could do. We could go Pellar to Purify and then immediately consume Succubus again. We could use this as a turn to get out our other Slyzard in the other row with the Incubus, or get down a Cave Troll, other things that are more, well, to make this a more sustainable combo for when the Succubus eventually ends up in that row, or to just be safer. So this might be the time to do that. However, they may have just rage quit. They may have realized that Succubus is by far the best Death Wish card. And so they knew they couldn't stop us. So there's a look at a monster's Succubus spamming deck for the new Even Fight seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.